Go ahead.
I want to thank everybody for being here today, especially our great Governor Greg Abbott and Director Steve McCraw, Director of DPS. I want to thank all DPS, Waco PD, Sheriff's Office, our Senator, Brian Birdwell, and our State Rep, Doc Anderson. Thank y'all for being here also. I also want to thank our media for being here. We appreciate y'all's interest in this. This is a very, very important meeting today about this very deadly drug that's out there on the street that is killing our kids. And so thank y'all. Thank everybody for being here. And Governor, thank you so much for bringing this meeting to be.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. Director.
Thank you, Governor. Well, Sheriff, thank you. Deputy Chief, what a tremendous law enforcement community here. Great partners, always leaning forward and trying to protect the people in the community. And it's great to work with you. And thank you for your leadership in the TAG as well and your participation. Certainly, in my lifetime, the most significant, deadly, pernicious, illicit drug threat that I've ever seen, or that anybody's ever seen, and we've discussed it earlier, is fentanyl. And the reason for it is it's highly potent, highly lethal, and in a combination of what the Mexican cartels have been doing, and that's they've been taking it and lacing it with what alleged counterfeit pills into press and pushing it into our streets, in our communities, and flooding it. And as a result, people that think that they're taking maybe an Adderall or Oxycontin, oxycodone, or some other chemical or prescription drug is really not taking that prescription drug. What they're doing is taking a potential, lethal dose of fentanyl. And unfortunately, we've lost too many Texans already. And Governor, you've taken a proactive approach, certainly in addressing the Mexican cartels, combating them in terms of being able to detect and interdict them at the border between the ports of entry, the criminals, and also the dope that floods into. But it's similarly in terms of the gangs through the Texas Anti-Gang Center, being able to attack the retail distribution side of it. And now another key piece of that, and that's the education part in protecting our kids. And thank you for your leadership on this issue.
Sure. Thank you. Also, I want to thank everybody for being here, Sheriff. Thank you, as always, and thanks to everybody who joined with us for a discussion here today. But most importantly, thank you all. I need to make clear to everybody here in the greater Waco area that fentanyl is killing Texans. Last year, almost 1,700 Texans lost their lives because of fentanyl. On average, that would be more than 4 people a day in Texas alone losing their lives because of fentanyl. In the United States of America, the leading cause of death of people between the ages of 18 and 45 is not cancer, it's not COVID, it's not car wrecks, it's not guns. The leading cause of death of people between the ages of 18 and 45 in the United States of America is fentanyl. The DEA administrator said this. She said fentanyl is the single deadliest drug threat that our nation has ever encountered. And according to the CDC, during the 1-year time period from February 2021 to February 2022, more than 75,000 Americans died from fentanyl-related overdoses. The way that it is made and gets here, the precursor elements typically come from China and typically go to Mexico. In Mexico, it is mixed up and laced onto what looks to be like prescription drugs. This I'm holding up right now is a deadly dose of fentanyl. As you train your cameras on it, you really can't see anything. At the very bottom of it, you may see something that looks like a grain of salt. And 2 milligrams of fentanyl is a deadly dose. This is a package within a package of pills that were pressed, and layered into it is fentanyl. Fentanyl is on these pills right here, and pills like this are sold on the street in Texas every single day. All of this is even made worse when you see the new version of fentanyl. It's called rainbow fentanyl. It comes in multicolors and is intended to attract young people, teenagers, even younger than teenagers, to take this drug. And because such a small dose, just 2 milligrams of fentanyl is a deadly dose, a child or teenager or even adult will take just one pill, they'll die from it, not knowing that that one pill could kill them. All of this is a byproduct of Biden's open border policies. Over just the past year, more than 2 million people have come across the border illegally. When you have that high volume of people coming across the border, it also includes drug trafficking, and it actually makes it even easier for drug trafficking because the Border Patrol is occupied filling out all the paperwork for the people they apprehend coming across the border. That opens up the pathways for the drug cartels to be able to get fentanyl across the border into Texas and then across the United States of America. In this open border policy, there's allowing the fentanyl into our country and our state as having these deadly consequences in Texas. 4 Hayes School District teens lost their lives to fentanyl. A 13-year-old in Wichita Falls, Texas, lost his life to fentanyl. I'll talk to Virginia Krieger, whose daughter was tragically killed from fentanyl poisoning. Fentanyl is a clandestine killer that's brought into and caused by the Mexican drug cartels. Cartels are terrorists, and it's time that they be treated that way. Well, Texas is already taking action. One thing that we have done, Texas Department of Public Safety alone has seized enough fentanyl to kill every man, woman, and child in the entire United States of America. And then on top of that, I recently issued an executive order designating cartels as terrorists in Texas and urging DPS to take immediate action. What they are doing, they're working with local law enforcement as well as with federal law enforcement to identify gangs that support Mexican drug cartels and seize their assets and disrupt their cartel networks. I sent also a letter to President Biden as well as Vice President Harris demanding that they also classify Mexican drug cartels as terrorist organizations. That would trigger a already existing federal statute that would authorize the federal government to go seize all the assets of these drug cartels. There's nothing stopping Joe Biden from putting an end to drug cartel activity in the state of Texas and the United States. All he has to do is identify the Mexican drug cartels as terrorist organizations. And then on top of all that, I signed a law last session to increase criminal penalties for making or distributing fentanyl in Texas. And today I'm proposing new laws. One is to classify fentanyl as a poisoning as opposed to an overdose. A poisoning is a purposeful act where one person intends to poison another in a way that they could lose their life, and that's exactly what it is. And then related to that, what I want to do with this law is because it is a poisoning, I want to make it a law that makes it murder for someone to knowingly provide fentanyl-laced drugs that lead to somebody's death. But the good news is that there is an immediate response antidote to someone who takes fentanyl. They could be going through a seizure on the brink of losing their life. And if they can gain access to Narcan, that can save their life instantly. We've seen it with law enforcement officers who were exposed to fentanyl who were losing their lives, and they received Narcan and it rescued their lives. And so one thing I want to see is an expansion of the availability of Narcan across the state of Texas to make sure law enforcement officers have it, but also maybe it could be placed in schools or other locations where there could be the possibility of fentanyl exposure. Bottom line, most important message I could deliver is one to parents across Texas, and that is they need to understand what is going on, and they need to have the tough conversations with their kids or grandkids about the easy availability of one deadly pill and how one pill can kill what otherwise would be an innocent life. So we remind all Texans to be responsible. Make sure that you're informing your family about how deadly this invisible drug is. With that, we'll take a few questions.
It might seem like an obvious question, but what's the motive here? Is the cartel trying to kill Americans? Are they trying to get money, votes?
So we're a little bit mystified by that. One is they want to try to continue to hook their customers on this drug. If the drug is used in such a slight way, the person taking it will survive. But it is kind of ironic that the drug cartels are selling a product to their customer where they will lose their customer. That said, that mimics other approaches by the cartels. The cartels could care less. The main way the cartels are making money right now is through human smuggling. They don't care about the fact that many of the people they're smuggling die on the pathway to getting to the border, die as they're crossing the border, or die after they cross the border. The cartels could care less about the human smuggling and human trafficking and human slavery that they put these people into. The cartels are not humanitarian whatsoever. And so it just fits a pattern with them that they're in it just to make money. And this past year, there have been reports that the cartels made a record amount of money this past year.
Governor, you spoke a little bit about potentially putting Narcan in schools on top of every law enforcement official having it on their person. Can you describe a little bit more of what that could potentially look like? Would it be just in the nurse's office at the schools? Would it be in every classroom, on every teacher? You know, what would you like to see if we needed to take that step for the state?
Well, so the first thing we need to do is we need to utilize the new chief of school safety working for the state of Texas. His name is John Scott. Have him identify the extent to which fentanyl is appearing in our schools. The reality is it may be appearing in some schools and not in other schools. There's no reason to have Narcan in a region where it may not exist. If, however, it does exist in any school, we want to make sure that they have sufficient Narcan to be able to treat the students there. And you would think that a single location such as a nurse's office would be the safest and best location for something like that. However, we would leave it to the safety professionals at each school to make that determination.
Governor, could you touch a little bit on the goals of the Friday Night Lights Against Opioids plan?
Well, we want to expose to the public and inform the public about what's going on concerning opioids, opioid abuse, what opioids can do to literally kill people. And we want to save lives is the bottom line by sending the message to parents, to families, to kids about the dangers of opioids and the necessity of avoiding them.
Two more questions?
Governor, earlier this year, the More Narcan and Keys program throughout the state had stopped taking requests for Narcan from different groups around the state because it ran out of funding. How do you plan to expand Narcan when these groups are already losing out on funding right now?
Sure. So when we start a session, we will have funding available that we can figure out the right pathway to provide the funding, but I think we can all agree on the necessity of making sure the Narcan is there. We have several funding paths. Texas has the beneficiary of having such a robust economy. Candidly, Texas has the #1 economy in the United States of America right now. And a byproduct of that is that we have a budget surplus of $27 billion. And we can squeeze out of that money to provide Narcan. Also, the governor's office has criminal justice grants that may have the possibility of providing funding for Narcan. One way or the other, we'll find the resources to make sure that we're saving the lives of innocent people.
Last question?
The cartels are designated to be terrorist organizations. How will this fight in the battle against fentanyl?
By designating cartels as terrorist organizations, it empowers law enforcement to be more aggressive about going after all the assets and resources of the cartels that exist in the state of Texas, whether it be bank accounts, homes, boats, vehicles, whatever the case may be. And our job is to put them out of business. Cartels need to understand if they are doing business in the state of Texas, every dime that they're making, every location that may be hidden, we will uncover it, we will root it out, and we will seize it, and we will put them out of business. If cartels do business in the state of Texas, they picked the wrong state to do business in.